Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Live with Liz. Nobody's here yet. Where are you? Okay, just kidding. Today, we're talking about social media and we're talking about engagement with hashtags and mentions. And before we dive really into that, I'm just super excited because yesterday I was contacted by LinkedIn. Congratulations. We are going to be allowed to go live on LinkedIn. This is very exciting because you have to meet a strict set of secret parameters to actually get to be able to do that. So hopefully starting next week, we will not be live only on Facebook and YouTube, but we will also be live on LinkedIn. So getting into the meat of it today, grab your coffee, hang out with me for a few minutes, and let's talk about social media hashtags and mentions for law firms. Now, I said when I posted about this video for this week and this topic that law firms have extra considerations, and it's super true. I think there are a lot of things that people don't think about on social media that law firms have to think about just by the nature of being lawyers. So there are some things like neutrality in your tone of voice. Taking a side can lead to unintended consequences. Providing an opinion might be skewed as legal opinion when in fact it's not. Do you use disclaimers? Can a hashtag be a disclaimer? Do you want to get involved in a conversation that might accidentally involve your competition or might be misconstrued? Are you providing education or are these merely advertisements? So when you're putting together your entire social strategy, there are all of these extra considerations that brands and companies aren't focused on, even though they may have to consider some of these things too, but law firms have to be acutely aware of them. So keeping all of that in mind, talking about hashtags and engagement on social media for law firms, there are still some benefits and some rules that law firms can get behind and take advantage of when it comes to growing your audience, increasing your engagement, being more visible, being beneficial to your target audience. And a lot of that can be achieved by taking advantage of hashtags and mentions. So first of all, why do you want more engagement? Well, engagement leads to visibility. Engagement can be a chance for you to showcase your expertise on your social channels, especially if you already have your target audience following you. That can be particularly helpful. You also have the opportunity when you increase your engagement to increase conversion and to find more clients. How does that happen? Well, more people hopefully visit your website because of it. They contact you for a meeting, for an initial consultation. Maybe they order a service directly from you because of something that they see on social media. So basically, it boils down to the greater level of engagement, the higher likelihood you are to grow your business utilizing social media. Now, how do you get more engagement? A lot of your social strategy, when you have good content, needs to include getting it in front of the right people. And hashtags and mentions can help you do that. Hey, Leah. Yeah, I know you knew that. You totally knew that. Okay, so hashtags and mentions. These can make or break it, can't they? Yes, they can. They're different across all of the different channels. The rules for using them change constantly. And it's not just rules and limitations that are set by the channels when it comes to hashtags and mentions. It is also best practices. What's most effective? Some of that is guesswork. Some of that is analysis. Some of that is actually dictated to you by the channel that is being used. So Twitter comes right out and tells you, for example, how many hashtags you should use. It's not just about the amount of the hashtags, it's about the general strategy too. So there are different kinds of hashtags, right? And I don't know if I mentioned this already, but hashtag is just a keyword. It's just a keyword. Sometimes people follow them to find trending topics. Sometimes people follow keywords that are interesting. Sometimes they're related to who they are. Sometimes the platforms are intuitive and they understand when you utilize a particular keyword, what audience it's meant for. Sometimes it's not as intuitive, and sometimes it just can't tell because it's machines, right, what your intention is. A mention is a tag that is mentioning an account. You can mention a person, you can mention a user, but you generally are using the @ symbol and the name of the account that a person has, which might be their name, especially on LinkedIn, but it might also be the brand name or the company name, or it may be just a unique name of an account. So it's the handle. And when you're mentioning people directly, usually they get a notification of that, and that can drive engagement. And then your hashtag strategy along with that can drive engagement with people you don't necessarily know. You want to be very careful, though, especially as a law firm, about utilizing tags that are outside of your intended audience's grasp, that are kind of borderline used by someone else, that maybe, competitor, not just as a law firm, but even as a company. Like, imagine you're Coca-Cola and you put hashtag Pepsi on there. That's not okay. It's not okay. It's not something we would ever do. But you can do competitive analysis with them. So when you have a strategy for hashtags for your law firm, we're generally talking about a strategy that can be applied like a company would use. You can use a brand hashtag, you can use a campaign or subject hashtag, and you can use an audience hashtag. So these are not the only 3 types, but we're going to talk about these 3 particularly because these should be included in almost all of your posts. Now, branding hashtags, this is hashtag in your company name or hashtag in your law firm name. These don't necessarily have to be used in every post. And when you have limitations, you may choose to eliminate them. I like to use them. They provide name recognition, but the reality is that you don't have to use them because you can research all of your own social history without having to use the brand. You can also see what other people are saying about your brand if they use hashtags as a third party without having to necessarily use it yourself. So while it can be useful on certain channels to use branded hashtags, you don't necessarily have to. Campaign or subject hashtags, this is just sometimes to clarify what a post includes. There's kind of a famous example of this that Hootsuite likes to use, where NASA has this beautiful artistic picture, but it doesn't have much context. And so they put hashtag Apollo 50th so that you understand that the connection between what this art is about and the subject matter that they're talking about. And so you might not necessarily know, but you can be more explicit about this, and sometimes it's obvious. So if you're talking about, the letter of the day, oh my God, you can tell I have a toddler and that we watch Sesame Street. If you're talking about patents, if you're talking about a certain decision from various courts, if you're talking about a change in legislation, all of these things tend to add value to your audience when you're a law firm. And those can be turned into subject hashtags, which are then searchable, and people who are interested in those topics can find that information. Then the third type, so you've got brand and you've got campaign or subject, and then the third type is audience targeting. So in this one, you probably are more consistent and you know which ones you want to use on a pretty regular basis. For example, you might use patent lawyer or trademark lawyer, you might use law or legal, you might use law firm, or you're trying to reach consumers of the services that you provide in law. So if you are an IP firm, obviously this is our reference because we work primarily with IP firms, but you might be looking at hashtag small business. You might find hashtag entrepreneur to be something that targets your audience. If you are a law firm that provides divorce services, you might want to use hashtag dad or hashtag parenting or hashtag kids. And these are things that will be targeted toward a very particular audience on a regular basis. So you've got brand, campaign or subject matter, everything from holiday to whatever it is you're talking about to whatever it is you're reporting about, and then you've got audience. And these are things that you define as you develop your social strategy for use on a semi-regular basis. Now you have to keep in mind a lot of different things, these limitations across channels and how hashtags work on them. So hashtags started on Twitter as keywords, but they pretty quickly expanded to other places. And it's funny, on some platforms, you don't even have to use the pound symbol to start your hashtag. You can just use a keyword and it'll still find your audience. That doesn't work everywhere, and there are limitations to that too. But on Twitter, they come right out and tell you, use 1 or 2 hashtags. You've got this character limit that you can use for your tweets. Technically, you can put as many hashtags as you want in there. But because Twitter is explicit in stating how many you should, the recommendation comes straight from the horse's mouth, we tend to follow their advice, because going against it tends to bury your content, the exact opposite of what you're trying to do, because one of the things that can happen as a consequence of using too many hashtags is that you look spammy. You look like a walking advertisement. I said walking, but you're really digital. And that's not what we want. We want you to be effective in terms of reaching your audience, in terms of engaging with people and having a conversation. And the right hashtags can reach your audience and can help start that conversation and get people engaged. So if you are careful in the way you use them and the targeted information and tags that you choose, then you'll be effective in accomplishing that. So Twitter 1 to 2, Facebook, it's the same thing, 1 to 2. And of course, in both of those platforms, you can use hashtags in your original post or your original tweet. You can use them. You can use them in comments and in replies. So it's not limited to just your original post. On YouTube, you also can utilize hashtags. On YouTube, if you use them in descriptions and titles, they're actually hyperlinked. So if you click on them, they're clickable and you can find other things. This is also true in other platforms. On Instagram has a lot of possibilities when it comes to social media hashtags. You can use up to 30. Most people will tell you don't do it. Now, I've done some testing and it does depend, but the maximum number that you can use on Instagram is 30. Best practices says to use 10 to 16, depending on who you ask. Sometimes they say go as low as 5. And this has to do more about projecting professionalism than it does about what the efficacy is of utilizing hashtags. On LinkedIn, you certainly want to be professional, and the general consensus is 3 to 5 hashtags on LinkedIn posts. And again, you can use posts, you can mention people, you can mention companies, and you can reach more people, companies, get more people talking. Now, there are some third-party tools out there that you can utilize to understand which hashtags are popular. Popular does not necessarily mean effective for you, but it can make you part of the conversation and help you understand what's trending. So if you want to know what the right hashtags are, you might go to the third-party tool, Right Tags, that's actually one, or something like Hashtagify or Best Hashtags. You can also use the platforms themselves to research what's effective, how many followers a certain hashtag has. You can find that information out very clearly for LinkedIn, which I find to be most important for law firms, as well as Instagram, which has increasing importance and visibility. I have dogs, as you might be able to hear. Okay, so, and I guess we'll be wrapping Live with Liz earlier today. Okay, so, wow. I don't know if you can hear them or if only I can hear them, because I do have this noise canceling thing, but so on LinkedIn, when you're researching hashtags, you can actually just put a hashtag into the search bar and it will literally tell you how many followers a particular hashtag has. On Instagram, you can put the hashtag into your regular search bar, and instead of getting the followers right away, which you can see in another screen, you get the number of posts associated with a particular hashtag. And that, right, that's how hashtags work. If you are confused, or if you don't have time, or if you if you haven't thought about it recently and you want to get some expert advice on your social strategy, give us a shout, solutions@firmforward.com. We are happy to help establish that for you. At Firm Forward, we only work with law firms, so we're acutely aware of all of the different risks and precautions that lawyers need to take online, including in a hashtag strategy. And so we love doing this. Also, if you haven't noticed, which you probably haven't because we've been quiet about it, we recently reduce the price for our social media management. And that is because we have added new team members who need some work to do. So if you have been thinking about getting some third-party assistance, whether it's to completely manage your social media strategy or your content, or if you just want a jumping off point, we offer a lot of different solutions related to it. Just give us, just send an email to solutions@firmforward.com or visit firmforward.com and check out our social media management packages. Right now, we do have some pricing on there so you can get a good idea of what we offer. But if you don't see what you're looking for, just send us an email. We've got some smaller packages available. We've got some bigger packages available, and we'd love to help you. See you next week on Live with Liz, hopefully on LinkedIn too. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And here we go.